Welcome to Outlaws and Gunslingers. From the Wild West to the rise of organized crime during the Prohibition, all the way up to today, America has had criminals, gangs, and law enforcement trying to bring them down. Join us as we profile some of the most infamous criminals, gangsters, outlaws, and lawmen in American history. True crime like you've never heard it before. Ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Bang and Dang.
Welcome back to Outlaws Gunslingers with your host Bang and Dang. Time for another remastered edition of currently Wild West. I thought it was going to be Billy the Kid this week, but no, it was going to be Jesse James instead. Famously shot in the back of the head by the coward Robert Ford while dusting a pitcher in his own home.
The old Younger band.
You know, this...
The old Younger gang. Didn't they intermingle with the Daltons?
No, that was Dalton Doolins.
That's what it was.
Jesse James is actually one of the most violent outlaws that we covered. Usually, like, you get in shootouts with the law and stuff like that, but this guy was just, like, shooting people in the face for no reason, just because he was robbing banks and shit. He was doing some crazy shit.
Yeah, he was an actual jackass, but he's, for some reason, shown as a hero.
Well, a Robin Hood type. Rob the rich and give to the poor type fucking guy.
Yeah, except for he was just a dirty human being.
Suspected to be a part of the... If you guys listen to our Civil War podcast, you guys remember the Quantrill Raiders raided a town and murdered about 200 men and children. Or men and boys, I guess you could say. And he's suspected to be a part of that, as well as another massacre of wounded Union soldiers coming back on a train and massacred all of them as well. So he was a Confederate sympathizer, and we'll find out right here coming up after this. But first, if you're listening on YouTube, go check out our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or reverse. If you're listening on those, go check out our YouTube where you get this podcast plus our Battles of the American Civil War in one place. Give us a subscription, share us with your friends. And we're on the push to 1,000 subscribers over on the YouTube. So, even if you don't even listen on YouTube, just give us a subscription. Just help us out. Got Jesse Woodson James. We already know. Leader of the James Younger gang, outlaw, bank, train robber. He was also a guerrilla. He was born September 5th, 1847 in Clay County, Missouri, near the site of present-day Kearney.
Oh.
The area of Missouri was largely settled by people from the upper South, especially Kentucky and Tennessee. It became known as Little Dixie for this reason. His father, Robert S. James, farmed commercial hemp in Kentucky and was a Baptist minister before coming to Missouri. He married Zerelda Elizabeth Cole on December 28th, 1841.
Oh.
After the marriage, they migrated to Bradford, Missouri, and helped found William Jewell College in Liberty, Missouri.
Fantastic.
He held 6 slaves on more than 100 acres of farmland. Good for him. Jesse's brother, Frank, was the first of the brothers to get born, and he was born January 10th, 1843, on the family farm.
Usually how it goes back then. Doc comes to see you.
Right. Doc making a house call.
Making that damn house call.
And then after Frank, 3 more children quickly followed. Robert James Jr. was born at the farm July 19th, 1845, but died 33 days later. Jesse, he was born, like I said, September 5th. And then soon after that, Susan Lavania was born November 25th, 1849.
Every kid 2 years apart.
Got them...
and in the same month, except for, July and January.
Right, and November and September.
Well,
no.
Same area of time.
No, literally one...
September and November are decent and close apart. It's only 2 months away, a month apart. Early, 1850, Reverend James was asked to serve as chaplain on a wagon train, which is it had a local man there headed west to Old California. They're going to search for gold.
Yes, sir.
12th of April, he left the farm in Z's care.
That's what they called Zerelda.
Headed west to preach to the crowds of the gold miners who had gathered there.
Oh, that's all they need.
Right. He would die there when James was only 3.
Yeah.
Shortly after arriving in California on August 1st, 1850, the Reverend, he contracted a fever from drinking contaminated water.
Can't do that. You think he would know better.
Right. 18th of August, 1850, the minister, dead, cholera. At a Placerville, California gold camp. And he was buried in an unmarked grave. Damn, dude, all the way out there and probably didn't even get a chance to preach.
Right.
So at least he made it to California, right?
Yes. At what cost? His life.
Right. After Robert's death, Zeralda, she married a second time to Benjamin Sims. It was a neighboring farmer.
He had his eye on her the whole time. He's like, I can't wait for Robert to die on the trail.
Right. But this marriage proved unhappy, mainly because of Sims' behavior towards the two boys. Right. His lack of affection for them and his use of corporal punishment, which Zeralda did not even approve of, resulted in a failure of the marriage. She's like, no, I'm sorry if you can't treat my boys right.
Right.
Z was a woman of strong opinions who fiercely guarded her sons against criticism. After a series of arguments between the couple, Zeralda started procedures for a divorce. An unusual move for this time, and it was very hard as hell.
Right.
This was unnecessary since Sims was murdered in a horse accident on the 2nd of January, 1854.
I don't know about murdered, but definitely killed, yes. Third marriage to Dr. Archie Reuben Samuel took place in 1855. Damn, she moves fast. The physician was well-to-do and docile, allowing his wife to make important family decisions. When it came to the children, Z made all the decisions. Dr. Samuels purchased additional adjoining property and expanded the farm. Jesse's mother and Samuel had 4 children together as well. He had Sarah Louisa, John Thomas, Fanny Quantrill, and Archie Peyton Samuel.
Nice.
Zeralda and Samuel acquired a total of 7 slaves who served mainly as farmhands in tobacco cultivation.
All right.
Look at these guys making some money, huh?
Yeah, got themselves a business and some employees.
Right. Some property.
The approach of the American Civil War loomed large in the James Samuel household. Missouri, a border state, sharing characteristics of both North and South, but 75% of the population was from the South or other border states.
Right.
Clay County in particular was strongly influenced by the Southern culture of its rural pioneer families. Farmers raised the same crops and livestock as in the areas from which they had migrated.
Well, why wouldn't they?
They brought slaves with them and purchased more according to their needs.
Okay. The county counted more slaveholders and more slaves than most other regions of the state.
No shit.
And Missouri as a whole, slaves accounted for only 10% of the population, but in Clay County, they constituted 25%.
Damn, some racist motherfuckers there.
Aside from slavery, the culture of Little Dixie was Southern in other ways as well. This influenced how the population acted during and for a period of time after the war. Yeah, I mean,
All right.
they didn't like those old unions.
I mean, what are you going to do, man? It was a big country back then.
Right.
After the passage of Kansas and Nebraska Act, 1854, Clay County became the scene of great turmoil as the question of whether slavery would be expanded into the neighboring Kansas territory bred tension and hostility. Many people from Missouri migrated to Kansas to try to influence its future. Much of the dramatic buildup to the Civil War centered on a violence that erupted on the Kansas-Missouri border between pro- and anti-slavery militias.
If you have listened to our Battles of the American Civil War,
Yeah.
we go into this a lot in the early days of the war.
I'd say it was worse there, if anything.
I mean, here, you had like guerrilla groups and militias and shit like that. It wasn't even regular armies.
It's insanity.
It was just like raids and shit on towns.
Right, because basically it was still untouched land.
Right. After a series of campaigns and battles between conventional armies in 1861, guerrilla warfare gripped Missouri, waged between secessionist bushwhackers and Union forces, which largely consisted of local militias known as the Jayhawkers.
Yep.
That's why Kansas Jayhawks, A bitter conflict ensued, resulting in an escalating cycle of atrocities committed by both sides.
Yeah.
Confederate guerrillas murdered civilian Unionists, executed prisoners, and scalped the dead.
They did. Jeez. Yeah, that was terrible. Go back and listen to that episode.
Well, several of them, yes.
Union presidents enforced martial law with raids on homes. They arrested civilians.
Yep.
Summary executions. And also banishment of Confederate sympathizers from the state.
Yeah.
Like, get the hell out. The James Samuel family sided with the O'Rebs at the outbreak of the war. Frank James joined a local company, recruited for the secessionist Drew Lobb's army, and fought at the Battle of Wilson's Creek in August of 1861. No shit. I don't remember that.
I think I might have said something about it.
He fell ill and returned home soon afterward. Well, you're just allowed to leave.
He's sick, man. What are you going to do with a sick guy?
Right. There, he was arrested by a local
Plus,
militia.
he was never in the actual army. He was just in the little militia place.
When he got there, he was arrested by a local militia of Union supporters. Damn. He was released when he signed a statement of allegiance to the Union.
Okay.
But by July of 1862, he had instead joined the Missouri Partisan Rangers of William Clark Quantrill.
Oh, this Quantrill.
Quantrill's raiders were Confederacy supporters who used guerrilla tactics. They were active in the border war between Missouri and Kansas. They attacked the regular Union Army and various militia of Union supporters in 2 states, which was Kansas and Missouri. It is thought that he took part in the notorious massacre of some 200 men and boys in Lawrence, Kansas, a center for abolitionists, which we...
Okay, my mistake. I thought I lumped in Jesse with that. It was just Frank. Jesse didn't come yet. Well, just 3 months after that Lawrence raid, you guys go look up at our episode, or maybe we'll link it in the thing. That Lawrence raid was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was rough.
Well, we got a little bit of look of it right here, but oh no, we won't. Just 3 months after the Lawrence raid, a party of Union soldiers invaded the Samuel farm, looking for information about the location of Quantrill's camp. Jesse, who was just 15 then, was questioned and horsewhipped when he refused to answer the soldiers' questions.
Son of a bitch.
Dr. Samuel, who also denied knowing where the raiders' camp was located, was dragged from his house and was repeatedly hanged from a tree in the yard. Somehow, he managed to survive the interrogations.
Jeez.
And that didn't sit right with Jesse, I'll tell you that.
Nope. Gee. Well, Frank, he followed Quantrill to Sherman, Texas, over the winter of 1863 and 1864. In the spring, he returned in a squad commanded by Fletch Taylor. After they arrived in Clay County, 16-year-old Jesse James, he's like, guess what, brother? I'm sick of this shit. I'm coming with you.
Time to join you.
Frank was like, all right.
Whatever.
Taylor was severely wounded in the summer of 1864, losing his right arm in a shotgun blast.
Damn.
Oh. The James brothers then joined the bushwhacker group, led by William Bloody Bill Anderson. Mm-hmm. It was this very group that he is believed to take part in the Centralia massacre on September 27th, 1864. Over 100 armed guerrillas descended upon Centralia, a community of fewer than 100 people. They are intent on robbing the train that was there. While waiting for that train, they terrorized local civilians, robbing and burning stores, killing a civilian who had attempted to defend a young woman. Yeah. The stage from Columbia came into the community, and they robbed the passengers as well.
Well, when the train finally arrived, 24 unarmed and wounded Union soldiers were dragged from the train by the frenzied ruffians and were murdered in front of the horrified citizens of the town. The guerrillas then set fire to the Centralia depot, sacked and set fire to the train, and then sent it on its way west with no crew aboard, which it eventually crashed and destroyed.
Holy shit.
The band of guerrillas was followed by an experienced federal infantry led by Union Major A.V.E. Johnson after that. About 3 miles south of Centralia, About 3 miles south of Centralia, the Union forces were bushwhacked by the band and were nearly annihilated.
Oh, wow.
Over 120 federal troops were killed. Only 3 of the guerrilla forces were reportedly killed. Jesse is said to have killed Union Major Johnson and is credited with taking the lives of 7 other men in this very skirmish.
Shit.
This guy, dude. Damn, he killed a major.
Wow.
Wow.
As a result of the James Bros activities, Union military authorities, they forced their family to leave Clay County.
You guys gotta fucking go, dude.
We didn't do it. Oh, you gotta go. They're gonna come back. Though ordered to move south beyond Union lines, they moved north across
Fuck you.
right, across the nearby state border into Nebraska. Well,
All right.
Nebraska territory. After Bloody Bill Anderson was murdered in an ambush in October, James brothers separated. Frank, he followed Quantrill into Kentucky, while Jesse, he went to Texas under the command of Archie Clement, one of Anderson's lieutenants. I wonder if were they doing that on purpose? They get more shit. We split off and then meet up again.
Quantrill probably still wanted to do some raiding, and maybe this Archie guy was like, let's go lay low in Texas for a minute.
Right. Well, he's known to have returned to Missouri in the spring. Right. Age 17, Jesse suffered the second of 2 life-threatening chest wounds when he was shot while trying to surrender after they ran into a Union cavalry patrol. This was near Lexington, Missouri. Oh, shit.
Yeah. He ran into the town waving a white flag, apparently, and the guys just shot him.
Huh?
Well, at the end of the Civil War, Missouri remained deeply divided. The conflict split the population into 3 bitterly opposed factions. Anti-slavery Unionists identified with the Republican Party, segregationist conservative Unionists identified with the Democratic Party, and pro-slavery ex-Confederate secessionists, many of whom were also allied with the Democrats, especially in the southern part of the state.
Yep. Damn right. The Republican-dominated Reconstruction legislature passed a new state constitution that freed Missouri slaves.
Well, I hope so. It's the end of the Civil War.
It temporarily excluded former Confederates from voting, serving on juries, becoming corporate officers, or preaching from the church pulpits.
Couldn't even be a preacher.
Couldn't be a pastor. Oh, the atmosphere was volatile. with widespread clashes between individuals and between armed gangs of veterans from both sides of the war.
Yeah.
Damn.
Jesse recovered from his chest wound.
I mean, how could you, right? I'm surprised they even let these dudes even be back into serving in the military or serving on Congress and all that. I mean, come on. Really? But I guess if you want to heal
just
the nation.
look how many people we've already said in Civil War podcasts about all these generals and shit that came on to be governor of all these southern states afterwards.
Right. Well,
It's crazy.
that's what I say. If you want to heal a nation,
Well, let's just say
this is merge.
and the South and North were divided long after the fucking Civil War.
She ain't kidding.
Jesse recovered from his chest wound at his uncle's boarding house in Harlem, Missouri, which is north across the Missouri River from the city of Kansas's River Quay, which changed to Kansas City in 1889. He was tended to by his first cousin, Zerelda Z. Mims, named after Jesse's mom.
Oh.
Jesse and his cousin began a 9-year courtship that culminated in their marriage. It's his first cousin, by the way.
Yep.
Meanwhile, his former commander, Archie Clement, kept his bushwhacker gang together and began to harass Republican authorities.
All right. These men were the likely culprits in the first daylight armed bank robbery in the old United States during peacetime. Wow, really?
Yeah.
The robbery of Clay County Savings Association in the town of Liberty, Missouri, February 13th, 1866. $60,000 gone. The bank was owned by a Republican former militia officer who had recently conducted the first Republican Party rally. Oh, look at that.
So
Nobody left his rally early.
a Republican Party rally, which all the donor money just got put in the bank. So that's how they got $60,000.
Right, and that was in Clay County's. Oh, it was the first Republican Party rally in Clay County's history.
Good for them.
During the gang's escape from the town, an innocent bystander, always is, 17-year-old George C. Wimore, they call him Jolly.
Oh, he ain't so
Damn
jolly.
it. A student at William Jewell College.
Oh, that's the one that Jesse's daddy founded.
Right, damn. Shot dead. Street.
Wow.
Man.
It remains unclear to this day whether Jesse and Frank took part in the Clay County robbery. After the James brothers successfully conducted other robberies and became legendary, some observers retroactively credit them with being the leaders of that robbery.
I mean, why not, right?
Others have argued that Jesse was at the time still bedridden with his wound and could not have participated. Either or, no evidence has been found that connects either brother to the crime or that conclusively rules them out.
Oh.
Just another legend.
Oh.
June 13th, 1866, Jackson County, Missouri. The gang freed 2 jail members of Quantrill's gang, killing the jailer in the effort.
Oh, shit.
Historians believe that the James brothers were indeed involved in this crime, though.
Well, local violence continued to increase in this very state. Governor Thomas Clement, what's that name?
Right.
Thomas Clement Fletcher had recently ordered a company of militia into Johnson County. He wanted to suppress the guerrilla activity there. He's like, come on, guys. Archie Clement, he continued his career of crime and harassment of the Republican government to the extent of occupying the town of Lexington, Missouri.
Oh, wow.
He did that on Election Day in 1866. Insurrection?
Local insurrection.
Right. Shortly afterward, the state militia shot Clement dead. I mean, might as well quit letting these guys go.
Right.
James wrote about his death with bitterness a decade later.
Oh, poor guy.
Bitterness against Clement or bitterness against
I
the
would
Union?
assume against the Union. The survivors of Clement's gang continued to conduct bank robberies during the next 2 years, though their numbers dwindled through arrests, gunfights, and lynchings.
Oh, shit.
While they later tried to justify robbing the banks, most of their targets were small local banks based on local capital, and the robberies only penalized the locals they claimed to support. Right.
Well,
May 23rd, 1864, for example, they robbed a bank in Richmond, Missouri, in which they killed the mayor and 2 others.
oh, shit.
Yeah, really sticking it up the Union, aren't you?
Wow. It remains uncertain whether either James brothers took part, though. Although an eyewitness who knew the bros told a newspaper 7 years later, positively and emphatically, that he recognized Jesse and Frank James. They are there.
Sure. Or are you just saying this because it's 7 years later and you're trying to get your name in a newspaper?
You
But
couldn't believe anybody back then, dude.
Right.
It's insane. These dudes were like legends instantly. Stupid. It's crazy. I guess it continued on into Prohibition days and all that, because once your name's out there, you're like instant legends.
Right.
It's insanity. The Americans' love for gangsters.
Gangsters and criminals, dude,
Right.
for real.
Man. Like, I have to find one good thing about him and spin it to that. Well, he did have fucking 6 toes on 1 foot. Feel sorry for the kid.
Wasn't his fault.
Wasn't his fault. 1868, Frank and Jesse. They allegedly joined Cole Younger in a robbing band.
The band is back together.
They allegedly joined Cole Younger in robbing a bank in Russellville, Kentucky. And here it begins.
All right. Well, although he'd been doing this for a few years now, Jesse James did not become well known until December 7th, 1869, when he and most likely old Frankie Boy robbed the Davies County Savings Association in Gallatin, Missouri. The robbery netted little money. Jesse is believed to have shot and killed the cashier, Captain John Sheets, mistakenly believing him to be Samuel P. Cox, who was the militia officer who had killed Bloody Bill Anderson during the Civil War.
Oh, well, at least he had somewhat of a good cause.
Well, in the hatred for the man who he thought killed Bloody Bill, Jesse shot him in the back of the head.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
James claimed he was taking revenge, and the daring escape he and Frank made through the middle of a posse shortly afterwards attracted newspaper coverage for the very first time.
Wow.
In 1882, History of Davies, with two S's, County. Is it Davies's? Davies County said the history of Davies's County has no blacker crime in its pages than that of the murder of John W. Sheets. Yeah, man, and just cold blood for no reason.
That's just stupidity. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, what other robber did that?
Right.
Usually they didn't hurt nobody.
They tried not to.
Unless it was the law.
Right. The only known civil case involving Frank and Jesse was filed in the Common Pleas Court of Davies County in 1870. In the case, Daniel Smoot, he asked for $223.50 from Frank and Jesse to replace a horse, a saddle, and a bridle that was stolen as they fled the robbery of Davies County Savings Bank. Right. The brothers denied the charges, saying they were not even there on the 7th of December, the day the robbery occurred. He's like, we weren't there.
You're talking about prove it.
Right. Frank and Jesse failed to appear in court, and Smoot won his case against him. It is unlikely that he ever collected the money.
You think?
Right.
Well, that 1869 robbery marked the emergence of Jesse as the most famous survivor of the former Confederate bushwhackers. It was the first time he was publicly labeled an outlaw. Missouri Governor Thomas Crittenden set a reward for his capture at this time as well. This was the beginning of an alliance between Jesse and John Newman Edwards, who was editor and founder of the Kansas City Times. Oh,
Fantastic.
yeah, dude, this dude was writing so much shit about him.
Damn right.
Edwards, a former Confederate cavalryman, was campaigning to return former secessionists to power in Missouri. Oh, damn. He's going to pump up these.
Holy shit. 6 months after the Gallatin robbery, Edwards published the first of many letters from Jesse James to the public asserting his innocence. Over time, the letters gradually became more political in tone, and James denounced the Republicans and expressed his pride in his Confederate loyalties. Together with Edwards' admiring editorials, the letters helped James become a symbol of Confederate defiance of federal Reconstruction policy. James' initiative in creating his rise in public profile is debated by historians and biographers. Isn't it all?
Right.
It could be concrete truth to be like, well, no. The high tensions in politics accompanied his outlaw career and enhanced his notoriety.
It sure did. Well, meanwhile, the James brothers joined with Cole Younger and his brothers John, Jim, and Bob, as well as Clell Miller and other former Confederates and others, to form what became known as the James Younger Gang.
Damn right.
With Jesse as the most public face of the gang, though operational leadership likely shared among the group.
Yeah, I don't think it was
the gang
Jesse.
carried out a string of robberies from Iowa to Texas and from Kansas to West Virginia. They robbed banks, stagecoaches, and a fair in Kansas City.
Oh, nice.
Often carrying out their crimes in front of crowds and even hamming it up for the bystanders. Yeah, they were probably like...
Yeah. Little assholes.
Watch them dance, boys.
21st of July, year 1873. They turned to train robbery, derailing a Rock Island line train west of Adair, Iowa, and they stole approximately $3,000 worth $76,000 in today's money. Damn, them motherfuckers rich. Might as well just quit. For this.
That's what I don't understand. There's so much money back then, and they still just kept going.
Right. For this robbery, they wore Ku Klux Klan masks.
All right.
By this time, the Klan had been suppressed in the South by President Grant's use of the Enforcement Acts. Former rebels attacked the railroads as symbols of threatening centralization. Oh, look at that. So it worked out. So how do they know it was them?
Right. Now, the gang's later train robberies had a lighter touch. The gang held up passengers only twice, choosing in all other incidents to take only the contents of the express safe and the baggage car.
All right.
John Newman Edwards made sure to highlight such techniques when creating an image of James as a kind of a Robin Hood. Despite public sentiment towards the gang's crimes, there's no evidence that the James gang ever shared any of the robber money outside of their personal circle, right? Like they were going through town and handing it out to people.
Right.
What do you think? No, not everybody's...
Black Bart? Was it? Who it was?
Not everybody's Al Capone, who was legitimately doing shit for people in the neighborhood and stuff.
Right. you got to do, man. Jesse and his cousin Z married April 24th, 1874. The wedding ceremony was performed by Methodist minister William James, was Jesse's uncle. It was held in Kansas City. They had 2 children who survived to adulthood. Jesse Edward James, he was born in 1875, and Mary Susan James, later Mary Susan Barr, born in 1879. Twins Gold and Montgomery James, born in 1878, died in infancy.
Oh.
Jesse Jr. became a lawyer who practiced in Kansas City, Missouri, and also in L.A.
1874, the Adams Express Company turned to the Pinkerton National Detective Agency to stop the James Younger gang. The Chicago-based agency worked primarily against urban professional criminals, as well as providing industrial security such as strike-breaking. But because the gang received support by many former Confederate soldiers in Missouri, they eluded the Pinkertons. Joseph Witcher, an agent dispatched to infiltrate Zerelda Samuel's farm, was soon found killed. 2 other agents, Captain Lewis Law and John Boyle, were sent after the Youngers. Law was killed by 2 of the Youngers in a roadside gunfight on March 17, 1874. Before he died, though, Law fatally shot John Younger. A deputy sheriff named Edwin Daniels also died in that skirmish. Damn. You can't go against the Confederates, Pinkertons.
Oh, Alan Pinkerton, the agency's founder and leader, took on the case as a personal vendetta. January 1875, Pinkerton agent Jack Ladd, posing as a field hand at work on the farm across the road from the James farm. The farm belonging to neighbor Dan Askew served as a hideout for the Pinkerton spy. The agent thought he spotted Jesse and Frank at the farmhouse one afternoon, though the brothers were miles away. On the 26th of January, 6 Pinkerton reinforcements...
Peace, Kobe.
Right. 26th of January, 6 Pinkerton reinforcements surrounded the farmhouse and tossed a smoke bomb into the house to lure them out. However, Archie Samuel, thinking it was a loose stick from the fire, tossed it back into the fireplace, and the bomb exploded.
Bomb, quote unquote, right.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep.
The blast killed the young boy and wounded Zerelda's hand so badly that she later had to amputate it. Damn, killed the boy?
That's crazy, dude.
Afterward, Pinkerton denied that the raid's intent was arson. But biographer Ted Yeatman, he found a letter by Pinkerton in the Library of Congress in which Pinkerton declared his intention to burn that house down.
Of course he did.
Jeez.
Well, contemporary newspaper reports of the time simply reported the device as a bomb, and the public was incensed. However, the public wasn't the only ones who were angry, obviously.
Let me guess.
April 12th, 1875, Dan Askew, the neighbor who had sheltered Jack Ladd, he was found with a bullet in his brain at his home.
Son of a bitch.
Later in the same month, old Jack Ladd himself was also found shot and killed.
Oh, wow.
What do you think was going to happen?
Right.
Meanwhile, a couple months later in August 1875, old Jesse and his wife leased a farm near Waverly, Missouri.
Okay.
Jesse and Z used the aliases Thomas and Mary Howard.
Fantastic.
Jesse dyed his light-colored hair dark, grew a beard to conceal his real identity while laying low for many months, and took to farming with his wife.
Might as well, right?
But not for long. It was at this farm where the plans for the Northfield, Minnesota raid were devised.
How do they know it's him? The James brothers.
Well, this is why.
The 3 younger brothers, 2 Quantrill veterans named Clell Miller and Charlie Pitts, a local outlaw named Bill Chadwell. They all traveled north, lured by Chadwell's tales of easy pickings in his home state.
Easy pickings.
Right. They're like, dude, he's like, check this shit out. It's easy. Pickings are easy.
Right.
Right down Jesse's alley. He liked the idea of taking on a northern bank. Planning on making Mankato their first target, Jesse was recognized, and they quickly left town. Damn you, Jesse, quit going into town. They then rode toward Northfield, Minnesota, 50 miles to the northeast, meeting on the outskirts of town on September 6, 1876. They cased the First National Bank, planning to rob it that very morning.
Well, 2 days after Jesse's 29th birthday, this dude lived to 29, though. I mean, well, actually longer than that.
Right.
2 days after Jesse's 29th birthday, September 7th, 1876, the gang attempted to rob the First National Bank. The attempted robbery was to be the demise of the infamous James Younger gang. When ordered to open the safe, bank cashier Heyman refused and ducked down. Angered, Jesse put a pistol to his head and shot him.
Oh, shit.
The shot was heard beyond the bank, and when the bank alarm began to go off, the citizens opened fire upon the gang. Charlie Pitts, Bill Chadwell killed.
Dang.
Cole, Jim, and Bob Younger were severely wounded but escaped. However, they were captured just 1 week later east of Mankato. The Younger brothers were sentenced to life terms in prison after this.
Cole and Bob Younger later said that they selected the bank because they believed it was associated with Republican politician Elderbert Ames, the governor of Mississippi. Right, the governor of Mississippi during Reconstruction, and the Union General Benjamin Butler, Ames' father-in-law and the Union commander of occupied New Orleans. No shit. Ames was a stockholder in the bank, but Butler had no direct connection.
Whatever.
I bet he did. A substantial manhunt ensued. It is believed that the gang burned 14 Rice County mills shortly after the robbery. Right, let's put their attention on these motherfuckers. The James brothers eventually split from the others and escaped to Missouri. The James Younger gang, no more.
Gone, dude.
Destroyed.
All right. Later in 1876, Jesse and Frank surfaced in the Nashville area, where they went by the names of Thomas Howard and B.J. Woodson, respectively. Frank seemed to settle down, but Jesse remained restless. He recruited a new gang in 1879 and returned to crime because, of course, holding up a train at Glendale, Missouri, which is now part of Independence. October 8, 1879, that happened on. The robbery was the first in a spree of crimes, including the holdup of the federal paymaster of a canal project in Killen, Alabama, and 2 more train robberies they did.
Oh, wow. Look at that shit. Well, however, the new gang was not made up of battle-hardened guerrillas. They soon turned against each other, or they were captured. James, he grew suspicious of other members. He scared away one man, and some believe he killed another. 1879, James gang robbed 2 stores in far western Mississippi, at Washington and Adams County, and Fayette and Jefferson County. The gang left with $2,000 in cash from the second robbery and took shelter in abandoned cabins on the Kemp Plantation, south of St. Joseph, Louisiana.
Dude, how much money did this guy already earn? Like, isn't it enough for you?
Probably not.
Jeez. A law enforcement posse attacked and killed 2 of the outlaws, but failed to capture the entire gang. Among the deputies was Jefferson B. Snyder, who was later a long-serving district attorney in northeastern Louisiana. Good for him.
Oh.
By 1881, with local Tennessee authorities growing suspicious, the brothers returned to Missouri, where they felt safer.
Okay.
Well, James then moved his family to St. Joseph, Missouri in November of 1881, renting a house on 1318 Lafayette Street, where the infamous moida will take place. It's also only a little distance away from where he had been born.
Right.
Frank, however, decided to move to safer territory and headed east to settle in Virginia.
Might as well.
They intended to give up crime, did they? The James gang had been reduced to the 2 of them. With the $10,000 reward over his head, $10,000, Z tried to get Jesse to live a more normal life. Jesse agreed, but he said, I just need one last great bank robbery. There's always that, just the last one, and I want to do it in Platte County, Missouri. Jesse had finally decided to retire, hopefully with enough money to become a gentleman farmer.
Well, you should have done it before that,
Right.
buddy. With his gang nearly annihilated, James trusted only the Ford brothers, Charlie and Robert. Although Charlie had been out on rage with James, Bob Ford was an eager new recruit. He's like, he's my bro, man. We got him. For protection, James asked the Ford brothers to move in with him.
You ever seen the movie?
What movie?
With Brad Pitt?
Yes.
They portray Robert Ford as, like, obsessed with Jesse and shit.
Yeah,
Weird.
Crazy. James had often stayed with their sister, Martha Bolton, and according to the rumor, he was smitten with her. By that very time, Bob Ford had conducted secret negotiations with Missouri Governor Thomas Crittenden, planning to bring in the famous outlaw.
Yep.
Idiot.
Well, Crittenden had made capture of the James brothers his top priority. In his inaugural address, he declared that no political motives could be allowed to keep them from justice. Barred by law from offering a large reward, he had turned to the railroad and express corporations to put up a $5,000 bounty for the delivery of each of them, and an additional $5,000 for the conviction of either of them.
Oh, beautiful.
It's $10,000, baby.
3rd of April, 1882. After eating breakfast, the Fords and the Jameses went to the living room before traveling to Platte City for a robbery. From the newspaper, James had just learned that gang member Dick Little,
Something like that. They think Little.
Dick Little had confessed to participate in Wood Heights murder.
Dick Little.
He was suspicious that the Fords had not told him about it. Robert Ford later said he believed that James had realized they were there to betray him. Instead of confronting them, James walked across the living room and laid his revolvers on the sofa. Uh-oh.
He turned around and noticed a dusty pitcher above the mantel and stood on a chair to clean it because, like, he's ever done that.
Right.
Robert Ford then drew his weapon and shot the unarmed Jesse just below the right ear, and Jesse toppled to the floor dead.
Oh, wow.
James's 2 previous bullet wounds and a partially missing middle finger served to positively identify the body. The death of Jesse became a national sensation. The Fords made no attempt to hide their role. Robert wired the governor to claim his reward, and crowds pressed into the little house in St. Joseph to see the dead bandit.
Holy shit.
Can you imagine that? Just going in your house, it's not even yours?
Dude, just freaking shot him in the back. Wow. Robert Ford killed James for 2 reasons. The first was that Ford had killed a man named Wood Height in January of 1882.
Right.
When word of the shooting resulted in Ford's arrest, he informed the officers that he had access to much wanted Jesse James. He had to. In a deal made secretly with Governor Crittenden, the governor promised Ford a pardon for the Height murder if he would kill Jesse James. Wow. There was also a $10,000 reward on Jesse's head that Ford hoped to collect.
Yeah.
Well, he hoped.
Well, the Ford brothers surrendered to the authorities and were dismayed to be charged with first-degree murder. In the course of a single day, the Ford brothers were indicted, pled guilty, were sentenced to death by hanging, and were granted a full pardon by governor. That's a hell of emotions right there.
Kidding.
They were granted a full pardon.
Wow.
The governor's quick pardon suggested he knew the brothers intended to kill James rather than capture him.
Wow.
The implication that the chief executive of Missouri conspired to kill a private citizen startled the public and added to James's notoriety.
Oh my goodness, dude! What a way to go out.
Right.
It usually happens that way too. And he didn't even trust these guys, but yet,
Supposedly the only ones he did trust.
jeez, after receiving a small portion of the reward, the Fords fled Missouri. I bet they did. Sheriff James Timberlake and Marshal Henry Craig, who were law enforcement officials active in the plan, they were awarded the majority of the bounty.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Later, the Ford brothers starred in a touring stage show in which they reenacted the shooting. Why would you want to react to such a cowardly shooting?
Well,
Night after night, Robert Ford retold his story, carefully omitting that he had shot James in the back.
Right.
But this charade was short-lived, as he was greeted with catcalls, jeers, hoots, and challenges. Public opinion was divided between those against the Fords for murdering Jesse and those of the opinion that it had been time for the outlaw to be stopped.
I can see it.
Right.
Now, suffering from tuberculosis, which was then incurable, and a morphine addiction, Charlie Ford committed suicide May 6, 1888 in Richmond, Missouri. Bob Ford operated a tent saloon
1884.
What did I say? 64? 1884. Bob Ford operated a tent saloon in Creede, Colorado. On June 8, 1892, Edward O'Kelly went to Creede, loaded a double-barrel shotgun, entered Ford's saloon, and said, "Hello, Bob," before shooting Ford in the throat, killing him instantly.
Shit, with the shotgun?
Yeah.
Dude, I almost probably took his freaking head off.
O'Kelly was sentenced to life in prison, but his sentence was subsequently commuted because of a 7,000 signature petition in favor of his release, as well as a medical condition. The governor of Colorado then pardoned him on October 3rd, 1902.
Wow, I didn't know you got out of jail just by having a petition getting signed by people.
Well, back then you did.
I want to try that. Well, I'm not going to try. After his death, Jesse was packed on ice, taken by train to Kearney, where he was displayed and viewed by hundreds of friends, admirers, and curiosity seekers. James' original grave was on his family property, but he was later moved to a cemetery in Kearney. The original footstone is still there, although the family has replaced the headstone. James' mother, Zerelda Samuel, wrote the following epitaph for him, and it says this: "In loving memory of my beloved son, murdered by a traitor and coward whose name is not worthy to appear here." I know they used to do that. Put the names of the murderers on the headstones. I don't ever understood that.
Shot down by
Right.
Travis Carter.
Right. So stupid.
Well, meanwhile, James's widow, Zerelda, she died alone and in poverty.
Oh, no.
During their 15-year crime spree, the James Younger gang committed 26 holdups, making off with more than $200,000, killed at least 17 men. October 4th, 1882, Frank James surrendered to Missouri Governor Thomas Crittenden. The 39-year-old bandit marched into the governor's office and took off his gun belt, placing it before Crittenden and saying, "Governor, I want to hand over to you that which no living man except myself has been permitted to touch since 1861.
Oh, wow.
Frank was tired of the outlaw life. He was tired of being hunted for over 20 years, living in a saddle, and knowing no peace.
Shit.
Oh, good for you, bud.
Well, the public exhibited universal sympathy for Frank and his family. After several long trials, Frank was acquitted on all accounts, returning home to James' farm. Look at that. He took up several peaceful pursuits, working as a horse trainer. He also as a racetrack starter.
All right.
Yeah. Jesse's mother, Zerelda, allowed tourists to view her son's grave for 25 cents and sold rocks from his grave. Legend said that she restocked from the river when the rock supply ran low.
Who's going to know?
Right. She also gave paid tours of the farm shortly after Jesse's death, a practice continued by Frank in later years. Wow.
Later, when Zerelda could no longer live alone, her son's body was moved to the Mount Olivet Cemetery in Kearney, placed next to his wife on July 29, 1902.
Oh, wow.
Frank James was present at the reburial of his brother. In 1903, Frank appeared in a small Wild West show with his friend Cole Younger, who had been released from prison in 1901.
Look at that shit.
He got sentenced to life, too. Wow.
Yeah.
February 10th, 1911, Zerelda Samuel, after visiting Frank and Annie at their home in Oklahoma, suffered a heart attack on the train back to Kearney at the age of 86.
Damn, 86 in 1911. That's
Right.
pretty damn good.
Well, she is buried at the Mount Olivet Cemetery next to sons Jesse and Archie, husband Reuben, and daughter-in-law Z. At age 72, Frank died from natural causes at the James farm February 18th, 1915.
Wow.
His wife, Annie Ralston James, spent her widowhood at the farm.
Wow.
Good for you.
The rumors of Jesse James' survival proliferated almost as soon as the newspaper announced his death. Some said that Robert Ford killed someone other than James in an elaborate plot to allow him to escape justice. These tales have received little credence then or since. None of the James biographers accepted them as plausible. The body buried in Kearney, Missouri, marked Jesse James, was exhumed in 1995. Jeez, just leave these motherfuckers alone. Who cares?
Let's see if it was really him.
If so, he's dead now.
Well, you don't know that.
1995?
Maybe 120. No, because he was like 30 something when he died. So
160. Wow. He was exhumed in 1995 and subjected to mitochondrial DNA typing. The report, prepared by Ann C. Stone, Ph.D., James E. Stars, LLM, and Mark Stoneking, Ph.D., they confirmed that the mtDNA recovered from the remains was consistent with the DNA of one of James's relatives in a female line.
Okay, there you go. The theme of survival was featured in a 2009 documentary, Jesse James' Hidden Treasure, which aired on the History Channel. The documentary was dismissed as pseudo-history and pseudoscience by historian Nancy Samuelson in a review she wrote for the winter 2009 edition of the James Younger Gang Journal. Well, there's a whole journal of this, huh?
Right.
J. Frank Dalton claimed to be Jesse James. Dalton was allegedly 101 years old at the time of his first public appearance in May of 1948. He then died August 15th, 1951. Holy shit.
Damn.
It's 100 and, okay. In Granbury, Texas, so could have been him.
Maybe. Orrin Baker, Hood County Sheriff, he conducted a visual postmortem exam and found he had 32 bullet wounds and a rope burn around his neck.
Damn.
Oh. He was buried in Granbury Cemetery, where the headstone bears the name of Jesse Whitsom James.
Oh, shit.
Dalton's story was disputed by James's surviving relatives. Wow.
James's turn to crime after the end of the Reconstruction era helped cement his place in American life and memory as a simple but remarkably effective bandit. After 1873, he was covered by the national media as part of a social banditry. During his lifetime, he was celebrated chiefly by former Confederates to whom he appealed directly in his letters to the press. Displaced by Reconstruction, the antebellum political leadership mythologized the gang's exploits.
Oh.
Frank Triplett wrote about James as a progressive neo-aristocrat with purity of race. Oh, jeez. Some historians credit James' myth as contributing to the rise of former Confederates to dominance in Missouri politics.
That's true.
Well, maybe, right?
Oh, look at that. 1880s. Both the U.S. senators from the state, former Confederate military commander Francis Cockrell, and former Confederate Congressman George Graham Vess identified with the Confederate cause. I mean, of course, the 1880s, after James' death, the James gang became the subject of dime novels that represented the bandits as pre-industrial models of resistance. During the populist and progressive eras, James became an icon as America's Robin Hood, standing up against corporations in defense of the small farmer, robbing from the rich and giving to the poor, which is no accounts of any of that happening. Well, the latter. There was no evidence that he even shared the loot with his robberies with anyone after his gang members, other than his gang members. They alone enjoyed the riches with him.
Of course it did.
I mean, his wife didn't even get it. She died freaking broke.
In the 1950s, James was pictured as a psychologically troubled man rather than a social rebel. Some filmmakers portrayed the former outlaw as a revenger, replacing social with exclusively personal motives. While his heroic outlaw image is commonly portrayed in films, as well as in songs and folklore since the late 20th century, historians such as Stiles has classified him as self-aware vigilante and a terrorist who used local tensions to create his own myth among the widespread insurgent guerrillas and the vigilantes following the American Civil War.
Yeah, that's pretty close. Oh, Jesse James, he remains a controversial symbol. One who can always be reinterpreted in various ways, according to cultural tensions and needs. Some of the neo-Confederate movement regard him as a hero. However, renewed cultural battles over the place of the Civil War in American history have replaced the long-standing interpretation of James as a Western frontier hero. They're like, no, we can't even have fucking statues of Robert E. Lee. What makes you think we're going to make sure this guy's a hero?
Right. Well, if you want to go see a museum and sites devoted to Jesse, you can go to the James Farm in Kearney, Missouri.
Okay.
1974, Clay County bought the property. The county operates the site as a house museum and historic site.
Fantastic.
It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1972 with the boundary increase in 78.
Oh.
You can go to the Jesse James Home Museum, the house where Jesse James was killed, obviously.
Wow.
Oh, the James Farm, is that different?
Right.
Oh, that must have been the first one. This is the house where Jesse was killed in South St. Joseph, and it was moved in 1939 to the Belt Highway on St. Joseph's east side to attract tourists.
Right.
In 1977, it was moved to its current location near Pate House, which was the headquarters of the Pony Express. The house is owned and operated by the Pony Express Historical Association.
I don't like when they move stuff. I'm sure it's in the same house, but it's not the same as it being sitting on that same piece of land. You know?
They wanted to move it.
Yeah, but it's not the
They
same.
could have demolished it like they did all the other shit.
It's true. Jesse James Bank Museum on the square in Liberty, Missouri, is the site of the first daylight bank robbery in the United States.
Which we don't even know if he actually took part in, by the way, but...
Right. The museum is managed by Clay County, along with the James Farm Home and Museum outside of Kearney. First National Bank in Northfield, the Northfield Historical Society in Northfield, Minnesota, has restored the building that housed the First National Bank, the scene of the 1876 raid.
All right, you can go to the Heaton Bowman Funeral Home as well on 36th Street and Frederick Avenue in St. Joseph, Missouri. The funeral home's predecessor conducted the original autopsy and funeral for Jesse. A room in the back holds the logbook and other documentation. The Jesse James Tavern is located in Asdy, County Kerry, Ireland. It has been claimed that James's ancestors were from that area of Ireland. Okay.
Jesse O. James?
The documented evidence suggests that on his father's side, Jesse was a third-generation American of English descent. Cool.
Wow. According to the National Park Service, Jesse James has a historical connection to Mammoth Cave National Park, having reportedly occupied some of the cave's inner areas during his escapes from the law, and having committed a stagecoach robbery between Cave City and Mammoth Cave. These claims are disputed, as according to Katie Selinsky, a local cave expert. All right, Katie. She says, if every cave that claims Jesse James had been there was valid, Jesse James would never have been on the surface.
Right.
It is likely these legends are based on the ample evidence that the Kentucky cave system played host to outlaw camps in general. They probably did.
So maybe he
Right.
did one. You got the defeat of Jesse James Days in Northfield, Minnesota, is among the largest outdoor celebrations in the state.
Wow.
It's held annually in September during the weekend after Labor Day.
Oh,
Thousands
last
of
week.
right.
Son of a bitch.
Thousands of visitors watch reenactments of the robbery, a championship rodeo, a carnival, performances of a 19th century style melodrama musical, and a parade during the 5-day event. 5 days, dude.
Damn.
Jesse James's boyhood home in Kearney, Missouri, is operated as a museum dedicated to the town's most famous resident. Each year, a recreational fair, the Jesse James Festival, is held during the third weekend in September. Oh, it's right now.
Shit.
We can go there.
Let's go.
It'll be next weekend.
It would be. The annual festival in Jersey County, Illinois is held on Labor Day weekend at the 1866 Colonel William H. Fulkerson Estate at Hazel Dell. Festivities include telling of Jesse James' history and stories by reenactments of stagecoach holdups. Over the 3-day event, thousands of spectators learn of the documented James gang stopover at Hazel Dell and of their connection with ex-Confederate Fulkerson.
Awesome. Well, then you can go to Russellville, Kentucky, the site of the robbery of the Southern Bank in 1868, which holds a reenactment of the robbery every year as of the Logan County Tobacco and Heritage Festival. The small town of Oak Grove, Louisiana, also hosts a town-wide annual Jesse James Outlaw Roundup Festival, usually in the early to mid-autumn. This is a reference to the short time James supposedly spent near this area. I mean, why not? Take advantage of it. Pineville, Missouri, and other surrounding areas in McDonald County. They were host to the filming of the 1931 American Western film Jesse James, directed by Henry King and starring a bunch of stars from the 30s.
Henry Fonda.
Cool.
The Courthouse Square in Pineville, a paved thoroughfare, was covered with 400 truckloads of dirt, facades were built on other buildings. And the square and every trace of modern civilization was removed from those buildings to turn back 70 years of time to provide the proper James gang setting.
Oh, okay.
There were many people from the area that were hired for extras. Oh, we're talking about this movie.
Yes.
Every fall, to celebrate the movie being made here, we have Jesse James Days, which consists of arts and craft booths.
Oh,
Set up around the old square. A cook shack. A frisbee throw nightly for the kids, which will have prizes attached to them.
Don't think they had frisbees in Jesse James's time, but
Right. There was also a parade. Then you had a BBQ chicken dinner. You had nightly music and many more events that are too numerous to mention.
all right.
The money that is raised goes to the Pineville Fire Auxiliary to operate for the next year.
All right. So,
Jesse James,
guys,
huh?
there's a couple things coming up. If you guys want to go visit them, we'll visit the site, at least, or a couple sites of some stuff. So, yeah, Jesse killed his fair share of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was he more violent than James Harden?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so either, but, John Harden, not James Harden. Fucking James Harden, violent in the strip clubs. That's going to do it for Jesse James and this edition of Remastered. Next week, we're going to go back to serial killing. And I'm not quite sure who it's going to be, but we'll find
there's
somebody.
more detailed, like diaries and stuff with Jesse James, but we ain't getting into all that.
I mean, pretty much all the detail you need, man.
All right.
Rob some stuff. I don't need to read a fucking diary entry by the guy.
Got shot in the back by
Right.
a guy he barely knew.
Right. I mean, we could have profiled Robert Ford a little bit more, but he could even have his own episode.
Fuck those guys.
Yep, that's it. Like I said, next week, serial killers, and then we're back to the Mafia the week after that. And if you guys want to get all our podcasts in one place, this and the Battle of the American Civil War, go check out our YouTube at Bang Dang Network. Leave a link in the description. Or follow us on Spotify, Apple. Share us with your friends. Give us a review and answer that Spotify question. We'll be back next week for more Outlaws and Gunslingers. We are the Month of Michiganders with...
Bang, dang.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe so you never miss out on new episodes of Outlaws and Gunslingers or Battles of the American Civil War, right here on the Bang Dang Network. And don't forget to check out those playlists.